Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode here in the Art of Being Enough here on the podcast. I am Shalyn, and I am joined today by Melissa. Melissa, say hi to the people, please.
Hi, everyone.
I'm so excited that you are here, and I love your background. I love it. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it kind of gives us a little idea of what you're into.
Well,
just a little bit. So, Melissa, I just really want to start off our conversation by what you put here for your bio. It's just so heartfelt. Can I take a few seconds just to read this, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I love, you said here, you said, I've been a florist for over 20 years. My passion first began when I was a child walking around my grandmother's garden, picking flowers and learning the names. And then this is the next part I love too. You said, I then took floriculture in high school and realized that small business could be a career. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. I just want to ask you just a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about that connection with your grandmother, just being in that garden? Tell us a little bit.
Let's see. She had about 5 acres, and about 3 of that was flowers. And we would walk around and point to flowers and learn the names and make bouquets and take them home. And just we loved being outside as kids. So just anything we could do, which is so different from kids today. We loved being outside, and just learning about nature and connecting with it was always really important. And they had a pond at my grandparents' house, so we were just always outside and really just enjoyed it. And then we would take our flowers home, and they would die shortly after that because they're garden flowers. They don't tend to live very long, and then we would do it all over again.
We'll do it all over again. And how did you feel? I just have to ask this. How did you feel in that connection? You know what I mean, with your grandmother and her just really passing that on to you? I mean, like you said, I know you were a child, but what did you feel?
Well, in the moment, you're kind of walking around and you're just like, yeah, whatever. But then, later in life, you really look back and cherish that.
Yeah, and just cherish those moments. So I'm going to come back to that because I think I've already picked up on something. So I'm making a mental note to come back to that. So let me just ask you right here at the very beginning, could you tell us a little bit about your life and, like the answers, what you were searching for as you were trying to really decide that this is what you wanted to do? What was life before that?
Well, kind of going through high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. I knew I didn't want to be a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer. None of those things appealed to me.
Okay.
So I thought about interior design, which was pretty cool. And I had a entry class to it in middle school. And then after realizing how much math was going to be involved in contracting and water walls and everything else, I was like, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Then, I really thought maybe fashion design. But again, the same thing, I just feel like that market is so hard to break into. So how do you really identify yourself as a fashion designer living in Romeo, Richmond, Michigan, right?
Right.
So
right.
what kind of, I've always loved the design aspect.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I kind of stumbled upon floriculture and was like, oh, I can get out of school to go do this at a different school. All right, I'll try it. And then really it just reignited that whole passion and was like, wow, I could actually do something with this and be very local to my community still.
Be local to your community. That's what I was going to say, because it seems as if, you're where you were planted. you just bloomed where you were planted. And I think it just seems like it was something that was natural. Everybody knew you, you know what I mean? You were just familiar with that, and people knew, what you loved so much. That's ultimately. So I was going to say that's the ultimate thing that it seems like. And even in the smile that you have on your face, I can just tell that you obviously love what you do. So, okay, so take us to the next point. So, you decided, hey, I have all these different things. I love these pieces. I'm putting it together. What ultimately just like nailed it? You're like, I'm going to do this.
Well, I had a goal set that I was going to open up a flower shop by the time I was 35. But in the meantime, how do you do that, right? Like, you need money. You can't just live on loans, that kind of stuff. So in the mix of all that, I did end up getting my associate's degree in business management.
Okay.
And then through tons of jobs later, I realized that most of the jobs that I wanted needed a bachelor's degree. So then I went back to school and got a human resource degree. And I kind of worked in that corporate world, and I liked it, but it just wasn't really doing what I wanted it to do for me, as far as the fulfillment. I liked my job. I liked everybody that I worked with, but on a day-to-day basis, just something was lacking.
Absolutely.
And then when I had my daughter, that was when I decided to work part-time and kind of take a step back from that corporate, 9 to 5, 6 days a week. And then that was shortly after I was approached with kind of that opportunity that you can't pass up. I was 35.
Wow.
And I thought, why not?
Why not? Why not? Oh my gosh. So we are here in the conversation room, and I think what you just created was hashtag why not?
Yep.
I have a thing about these. It's funny, as we're spending time together, it just comes out. Just that hashtag of why not. And I would have to say, how many times have you had to really say that to yourself along the journey, starting the business, deciding what to do? Tell me a little bit about hashtag why not? How has that evolved?
Well, again, I did a lot of it with liquid assets.
Okay.
So I didn't have to feel the burden of being swamped in a debt that I couldn't pay back.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a part-time job. So that way, if my flower shop wasn't supporting the people that needed to be there, I could at least pay them with my paycheck.
Okay. Yes,
kind of got started.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that, so many people think I'm going to open up my business and just have all this money. It does not work like that. You realistically have to work very hard at it every single day. 1 minute I'm playing accountant, the next minute I'm taking a delivery, the next minute I'm, on the phone troubleshooting internet problems. It's just the day-to-day is so different than what you might have envisioned as to how your business is going to go.
Right. And that's a part of being flexible, not only just as the business owner, but as an individual. Because you could literally just be in a place and just say, you know what, I'm going to only do this, this, and this, but you're like, no, because you've got these goals, you're driven, you're passionate about what you're doing. So, okay, so the flowers, the story, we kind of know what you do, but tell us, what do you really do with these beautiful flowers? Who are you serving? What do we find there in your business?
Everything from a $5 bouquet to a $5,000 wedding. My motto here that I didn't put on the paper because it's kind of funny to me, but I just say, take the order, we'll figure it out later. That's kind of my motto. It's like, if we don't have it now, we'll get it. Don't worry, we'll get it fixed, or, just take the order and we'll figure it out. Nothing's too big and nothing's too small.
Oh, and I love that. And that could really help remove the hesitation of people wanting to come in and really patronize your business. You see what I'm saying? People
Yeah.
want to feel, they feel really that sense of community when they're there with you, because they know that you're vested into them in their situation, or their, maybe they're grieving or their celebration or whatever it is. I love it that you are there really to help. So, as just a business person, what are some of the internal struggles that you might face, with really moving forward? Because you're here, you are obviously enough. You have everything inside of you, but what are some internal struggles that you really find in running business or being in business?
How much time do you have? It's daily, and every day is so different here, which I love, but that can be a stress in itself, and like I said, you take the order, we'll figure it out. Okay, well, they need chartreuse green ribbon with snowflakes. Okay, I gotta go find it, so things like that from the day to day, it can be stressful. Very stressful when you're sitting here, the phone's not ringing, people aren't coming in, there's not a lot going on, and then you start going, okay, if, God, if you told me that I need to be here, you got to get people through my door.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
things like that, because, where some other people might be more flexible with the spending in that aspect. I have a brick and mortar building.
Okay.
So it's not like I just do this out of my home and I can turn the lights on and off when I want. Like I still have my bills that have to get paid.
They still come.
The business coming in.
Yes, the bills are still coming.
Right. Right.
Wow.
So that can honestly be a daily struggle, and it's fulfilling when you are getting those orders and things are happening, but then you might hit that slump where it's a week or two and I just start like, oh my gosh, things need to change, and I just hit social media harder. I just hit things harder, but you can realistically only do so much.
That's right. And I love what you're really saying is that you dig deep into a nice, we'll say, like, I'm looking for a bucket, like I have a bucket here, but you dig deep into the resiliency, the resilient side of things. And it's like what you were talking about, I can hear just that even though you're waiting and you know that order is coming, you're holding on because it's coming. Right? And you're walking through that. So I love that resiliency that you really have. Okay, so let me ask you. So let's kind of shift gears just a little, right? Mm-hmm. What can you tell our listeners about you that they would, really feel a sense of getting to know you better? What can you tell us? Tell us something to help us get to know you better. Is it, I don't know, a fun fact, a story, I don't know, something you've done, I don't know, something. Tell us something.
Well, I really dislike math, anything to do with math. So for me to be kind of, doing accounting and things like that, it's kind of comical to me just in that sense, because it's probably the worst thing that I drag my feet till the end, like sales taxes are due. Okay, I've got to sit down and do my QuickBooks, but I drag my feet to do it because the paperwork and that, like sitting there and doing math, and it's just not my favorite thing to do. Yes. And I love chocolate. So I have a really hard time buying bulk chocolate here because if I get hungry, I will just start eating it.
That is hilarious. And you need the chocolate for your bouquets or arrangements, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you cannot eat it. You just like, I cannot do this. So buy it. Is it buy it as needed? You know what I mean? Just enough.
Kind of. And especially around the holidays, I do have a surplus right now. So I do try to remember to bring like my protein shakes and like, things like that. Lots of gum. But I have such a sweet tooth. So sitting there, I have to try to like keep it out of sight, out of mind as much as possible throughout the day.
I love that. That is so fun. That is the real right there. You're like, listen, if you're an entrepreneur, don't eat your own product.
Right. Right.
So, I just really want to ask. I do love the flowers that you are surrounded by. Just could you just tell me what's that beautiful bouquet that's in front of you?
Yeah, right here, this is one of my holiday ones that I have, but it actually it doesn't even have any flowers in it.
Oh,
It's just all different winter greens with the cardinal, and then just the berries and um lots of different pines and cedars and like the pine cones and stuff. So yeah, I mean, even something like this, and kind of one of my other mottos is like flowers don't always have to be expensive.
oh,
A
yes.
lot of my customers kind of laugh because when they come in, they're like, "Oh, I want a dozen red roses." I'm like, "Do you really? Is that her favorite flower, her favorite color, or can I make something else and put a couple in there?" And they just kind of like, "Okay." So I always try to talk people into doing stuff
Mhm.
like this because I feel like this, they put a thought into it by picking it out for you per se. But
Right.
walking in saying, I want a dozen red roses, it sounds like you didn't know what you wanted to order. And that's what
Oh,
we know.
so
But
you are an intuitive florist. That's
so,
what you are.
so I'm like, can I talk you into this instead?
I mean, I'm just curious. People are receptive to that.
Yeah.
They're receptive to that, and it seems as if they automatically connect with that sense of trust because they
Yeah.
can tell that you really care. You really care.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
that's great. I love that. So, okay. So, what are you most proud about in regards to your business journey? What would
Well, that I've been here for 7 years. I just kind of feel like every day is a blessing. It's unknown. I mean, from our economy struggles to personal struggles, we don't know what is going to happen. I'm happy at this point that my health, I've been able to still remain healthy. Being a small business owner is super stressful.
yeah.
So I know with especially having a young active family, for me, that's probably one of the biggest struggles for me is trying to find that work life balance, to make sure that I'm, investing enough time in my business and my daughter. But as far as just, I've made it 7 years so far. And if I close my doors next year, I have to. I just kind of treat it like that. You know, I'm happy to be here, but when it's time to end, I just have that reality that kind of it is what it is at that point. I gave it my best, and that's what all it is.
And it sounds as if that somehow came about, it would be without remorse. It seems
Yep.
right. Am I right on that? It sounds as if
Yep.
you're fulfilled. You're fulfilled in this moment right now. You're
Yep.
fulfilled.
Yep. I did it. Why not? I did it. Why not? And if it doesn't work, I didn't lose much.
You've gained so much
Yep.
experience, gained just, that sense of pride. That is awesome. That's great. So in saying that, what would be the best advice that you would give a new entrepreneur?
I would definitely try to stay as in your own financial budget as possible and not try to over extenuate things
Wow.
too much. I know in some industries it's harder, if you're doing kitchens and things like that where you have to purchase a lot of overhead, but I would try to say to stay as not cheap as possible, but try to be frugal at first.
Yes.
You have to give it time before you actually see the gains coming in because you're going to be, unfortunately at a loss for a while, and you just really have to expect that. I don't think that anybody should expect to walk in and just, wow, I made my money back in the first year, because it really doesn't work like that. And I've wanted to give up many times and go back and get a job and do this, and maybe life would be easier and I could punch in and punch out and leave. But then I just think about sitting behind that desk again and I'm like,
Like,
nope, not yet. Not
like,
yet. I'm not
not
ready to
yet.
give up yet.
Yeah, not it's not that's not you're like that is not for me. No, thank you.
Right.
And I think that is the reality. And I love what you're actually saying, because sometimes we can jump on social media and see all of these picture perfect entrepreneurs, that are just doing this and the other, and you don't get a chance, or at least they won't necessarily show you all of the real behind it. And there's something that I love to pull this out. Let's see if this connects with you as well. When we see, I'm touching my phone, but when we see a picture or we see something on the screen, you can't always compare your day 1, 2, year 3, whatever, to somebody else's 8, 10, 9-year journey. You cannot compare the two. But would you agree that if you can appreciate where you are in that moment, that's what illuminates the journey? How does that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. And I would even say you can't even compare yourself or your own business to your first or your second and your 10th year, as it might be, because again, as the economy changes, as people change, you're going to have good years and you're going to have bad years. And social media, I mean, still, I cannot figure out some of these platforms. I have watched video after hashtag after this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why do I still only have 1,000 followers on Instagram? Things like that. And then you see people and they have 20,000 people. Like, how do you do this? And I'm trying to learn, but again, wearing the many hats that I do, we can't do it all.
Right.
But researching and knowing your product, knowing your markets, knowing things like that, I think is a great thing. At first, I kind of thought it was silly to do like a real business plan. And I thought, I already know who I'm marketing to, but it
Right.
actually had other questions in it that I really hadn't thought about. Like, how much money do I actually want to make per day to make it worth my annual budget? And those were things that I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna buy a flower shop, right?
We're gonna put a sign out here and say, open, come on in and get your
Right.
flowers.
Exactly. That's all you have to do, right?
Right. Wow. And that speaks to growth. That speaks to growth. Once again, goes back to that flexibility, that resilience that you have. You're like, okay, I'm learning more, I'm going to do more, and I'm just going to keep on evolving. I absolutely love that. And so you really kind of answered this one question that I have, is what do you do in the face of challenges when it comes in those times? So let's maybe talk about that though, because you said sometimes you do have a couple weeks or maybe a week that no one has come in, it sounds like you kind of pivot well, so what are you kind of doing in those times to prepare for the lean times versus the time of harvest? I'm trying to see, how do you frame that? What do you do in that to kind of get prepared?
Well, I stop spending, as much as possible. And, if I don't need those baskets right away, I don't buy the baskets right away. I might wait a little bit. And I know it seems silly, but anything like that, if I don't need it at that moment, I kind of put it on hold or
Yeah,
add it to my cart and just wait.
love that.
I do have a staff here that they're pretty flexible in the sense that if it is slow, they understand, they work when I need the help, and and when I don't need the help so much, they're great about that. So that takes a lot of the pressure off of me, as far as feeling like I have to give somebody 20, 30 hours a week, because sometimes that's hard.
Yeah. Wow.
There's certain months in this industry that generally are a little slower, and there's generally months that are a lot busier. So typically in those times, I do try to reduce staff where and how I can. And then when we have the influx of hours, that's when I can give you more hours,
Yeah.
So just having to try to stay flexible and watch your bottom line, know what's coming out of those accounts, know what's going in. And, if you have to kind of hit the pause button, then you do, and don't pull out that credit card just because you want it.
Wow,
Like,
right. I love that. Is all of that is just so good. And so could you just let us know, what does flowers really represent in your life? Like, because I wanted to get back to that. You talked about, the start of really connecting with your grandmother, and as you now are helping other people, what do you see flowers as representative in someone else's life?
Well, like for instance, with my wedding flowers, when I deliver them to the bride and they are just like, oh my gosh, they're more beautiful than what I expected. And just knowing that we were able to create that art and the design with it, or, the mourning widow that just lost their spouse. I mean, I've cried with people, I've laughed with people.
Oh,
um on a day-to-day basis. Again, you just never know what's going to walk through the door, and one phone call can change everything. To where I have sat here, and as I kind of alluded earlier, I mean, I have sat here and I'll never forget, I got down to, I was pretty low in my account when I first started, and it was just like, something has to change. And in walked a customer, my church called, and then that next week was back to being busy. So, I mean, you just really have to, stay planted, rooted,
yep.
just pray, lots of praying in those down times. Definitely, when you're not feeling that you're good enough, just remember all of those people that you were able to help.
Oh,
Like I said, like with all my brides, I am already at like 13 weddings for next year, just
wow.
from referrals. And usually everybody gets engaged like around Christmas and New Year's. So
Yeah, something
already
about that.
having 13 for next year is a really good feeling for me. It's a very good place for me to be in my business. And
Wow.
just knowing that, I can help alleviate some of the stress from these brides. And when I talk to them and I tell them, all you have to do is be there and I set everything up for you, and you can just see like that, they become at ease. And I'm like, that's my job, that's my stress, not yours. You just worry about showing up to the wedding, and just being able to reassure people and, have a good quality product. I
That.
definitely stand by my product. I don't buy the cheaper flowers. I do spend the money and get the better ones, and most people know that and they
Yes,
can see that.
that's good. Because you are a representative, right?
Yeah.
Behind the flowers, you are representing, and I want to say you are representing yourself well. And I
Thank
want
you.
to actually, you're welcome. And I also want to say that you're just so gracious to everyone that's here, to our listeners. You are actually offering a 30-minute Zoom. It looks like a in-person or a Zoom instruction class to the
Mhm.
listeners. That is so awesome. And what we're going to make sure is that when people connect over with you in the art of being enough, we have our community group that they can work with you in regards to this free offer, and that you can just spend time with the listeners and really show them the beauty of really spending time and really putting those flowers into place in their own hearts, right? So thank you
Mhm.
so much for that. And
Yeah.
so I just want to thank you so much for being here in the conversation room, here in the art of being enough. And I want you to know that you are enough.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. And so we'll see you next time. Thank you so
Okay. Thank
much. Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.